Hi, everybody. Welcome to Magnify the Power. So this course is being released one video at a time on YouTube, and then it's going to be released as a whole package course for groups to go through together on Thinkific or another platform. So I don't know how you are watching this, but welcome to however you are here with us today. I appreciate you being here. So in this course, we will learn about the universal community, the universal church that Jesus has built, and how to access it through simplicity. Regardless of your level of involvement in a traditional or conventional church, we will emphasize application in real life through the four core practices. We will also explore three powerful shifts in thinking that will lead to a healthy, godly identity, character, and maturity. So this first session launches the six-part series and shows you why it matters, the benefits and goals of taking the course, and what to expect from each session. You will learn how to practice community and follow Jesus, even if you are not involved in a traditional church setting. We will also have bonus material throughout the course for parents, guardians, and anyone who works with children and youth to understand how to apply the insights with your kids. A driving motivator for why I do any of this is to help those who come after us resist or avoid in the first place the religious guilt, shame, and trauma some of us have had to experience. If we can keep them away from bad Christianity altogether, then they can have much healthier worldviews and healthier relationships and enjoy life more without so much of the spiritual and emotional baggage. So I do hope you stick around and stay engaged throughout this course. So I will include a copy of notes that are in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the description below, there's a link so you can access your own fill-in-the-blank notes to follow along with. And if you're in the course going through this as a group, of course, that will be there for you as well, so you can access that material as you go along. So this is the second of what will be three main courses that make up what I call the Overcoming Bad Christianity series, and how it fits into the big picture of what I'm trying to do with Closer Than You Think. That's how it fits in. The ultimate goal of everything I'm doing is to help people who are confused, concerned, or constrained by what they have been taught or how they have experienced church to realize that God is closer than you think. You have been created in God's image. There is something about his power, his creativity, and his character that is already in you. To carry out this endeavor of sharing this message with as many people as possible and to help improve and transform as many lives as possible, I create all kinds of resources, which I will share more about towards the end of this module or the end of this session. But the main resource I'm relying on is this series of courses. Okay, a little about me and why I am doing this. So I am Mark Scott. I will be upfront that I'm a follower of Jesus, a ridiculously imperfect one at that. I'm a husband, dad, author, and content creator. I've served in multiple roles over the last 25 years in the institutions of public education, in the organized church, including as a pastor, a youth leader, a teacher, um, an assistant principal, and a principal. I still have my career in education for the time being right now, so I am gainfully employed, which is good. But last year, towards the end of 2023, I took a big step to begin a business endeavor as a solopreneur with this ministry called Closer Than You Think. I will admit that I barely have things off the ground, and it's been a lot of hard work already. But I do have an ambitious goal to ultimately help thousands and thousands, hopefully even 100,000 people, transform 100,000 lives by sharing the love of Christ in a way that restores people with hope and freedom. I am weird in a sense in that I already have my eulogy written. And one part of that is that I hope at the end of my life, people will be able to say that I have helped people overcome, again, what I call bad Christianity. And most importantly, find freedom in the simplicity of God's love. So let's get to the point of what matters to you when it comes to me. What qualifies me to take any of your time or speak into your lives about matters of the Christian faith or spirituality? So I was an ordained pastor in the institutional church. You name it, I did it. I was an assistant pastor, a youth pastor, education director. I preached sermons, planned programs, managed volunteers, ran youth camps. I taught all ages of Sunday school, hired and supervised childcare workers, worked with church boards, and on and on. I mean, the whole 9 yards. I was all in on this evangelical church ministry thing. Okay. Then some things started to happen for me, more internally than externally. In fact, things were actually going pretty good from a pastoral ministry standpoint. My messages were well received. The youth group was active and growing. But I began to experience this nagging feeling of missing Jesus and becoming spiritually empty. And I just couldn't shake it. And I thought I had been doing everything right to be close to God and help others do the same. So that started me on a journey that has led to life-changing discoveries and spiritual transformation, which I want to share with others. So I recognize that many people are on a similar journey, but they feel alone in the wilderness. Based on my experience and hearing stories from other people, my intention is to help people move past what is wrong with religion to embrace what is right with Jesus. I have a heart for those who are questioning, confused, or feeling lost or abandoned by the church as they know it. I know firsthand how difficult the process can be to deconstruct and make new sense of belief systems. My mission continues to be to develop content in multiple formats, books, courses, podcasts, to invite people to a simple, constructive, healthy, hope-filled journey outside of typical religious structures. It all started with writing a book entitled You Don't Have to Do That, which I published in 2021. To be sure, there are lots of resources out there about deconstruction and criticism of the Christian church and culture, and I can resonate with a lot of that, but I think I differ in a couple subtle yet important ways. One, I deal with the so what or now what parts of the faith journey. So if you are deconstructing or questioning, which is healthy and appropriate, by the way, it can leave you disillusioned and frustrated, and you don't realize, one, how close to you God is in the process, and two, that you're going somewhere better. It may not feel like it along the way, but the reconstruction and reforming and reshaping of your faith leads to more fulfillment and meaning. It's not done by people who don't care about God or just want to get away from religious authority, as some would have you believe. It is done by people who care deeply about their faith and want to take Jesus seriously. I focus a lot on practical tools and real life application, simple church practices, and how to do all of this work while maintaining solid theological foundations. So that's important. We don't throw away the Bible or tradition or the wisdom of scholars and believers over the centuries and just make up something that feels good to us in the moment. I want to help us see that many of the simple ways of following Jesus outside of the religious structures actually stay more true to the nature of how God has designed people to grow and mature in their understanding of him. The second thing about me that I think uniquely qualifies me to share important information with you is that I have been immersed in the two biggest and most influential institutions in our society for decades. So I know how the sausage is made. I understand how the messaging and systems within churches and schools profoundly impact young people in our society. What they are taught, how they are treated, how they are tested, what is labeled good and bad, all of it can and almost always does define and categorize a child for a long, long time, sometimes the rest of their lives. I know the teaching and learning dynamic, I know brain theory, and I've seen the social constructs within churches, youth groups, and classrooms that all shape young people's minds and hearts and self-images. And frankly, there are things we have done in school and church settings that trap our children and youth in toxic mindsets around God, how God feels about them, and how they should feel about themselves. It can cause all kinds of problems with how they try to find validation, how they treat others, what they promote as quote unquote Christian values, and on and on. There are better ways of navigating this thing we call life. We can raise our kids with hope and peace and joy. It can happen. My final word on that note is that I see all kinds of problems and challenges within the systems of religion and education, but I value deeply the individuals within those systems. I did a lot of things as a teacher and a pastor that I now regret and even shudder to think about some of the things I taught, but I can honestly say I did them all with full conviction and sincerity that I was doing what I thought was right, what I believe was most helpful and necessary for kids based on what I knew at the time. I don't go around bashing pastors, churchgoers, or Christians, but what I do is expose and challenge much of what the evangelical machine as a whole is making those individuals do. All right, one last thing to finish out my bio. I'm scared of all of this. I'm nervous about how people will respond or not respond. I'm scared of rejection. I teach everyone to see themselves as children of God, made in God's image, and not to put their worth in the acceptance of others. And then I am my own worst student when it comes to that. My anxiety around my weaknesses and my struggles with confidence keep me from taking risks way too often, which is one of the reasons I'm taking this risk to put this material out there. I am not a person who has himself perfectly all together, and I have very little of this figured out. If you're looking for a great person, an exemplar, a guru to follow as an example that you can copy, I'd probably stop this, what you're watching right now, stop the recording and look elsewhere. But if you want to spend some time with me and others like me who have learned some valuable lessons along the way and have a lot more to learn and are willing to do it in an encouraging and uplifting way, then stick around. I'm sure we will have something of value to share with one another. All right, that is enough about me. Dear God, let's move on. Okay, so you are seeing the three courses or three phases that make up the big picture of the Overcoming Bad Christianity series. So we have Simplify the Path. That is a self-paced course that you can access. I'll tell you how later. That's really the foundational piece to all of this. So I really encourage you to go through that. It kind of takes away all the clutter and just gets down to the basics of what does it mean to follow Jesus? What is the most important question to start the spiritual journey? And how do we follow love instead of law and things like that? It's essential foundational groundwork. Then there's this course, which is Magnify the Power. And it's really about how do you put these things into practice, especially when you're in community or in family or working with your spouse or your children to develop your spirituality and continue to grow in your faith. But you're not necessarily involved in religious structures or organized church settings. So that's what this course is going to be all about. And we're going to break that down, obviously, here in a minute. And then the final one, there's going to be a course component to this. There's also individualized coaching that's going to be a component to this, which is Dignify the Person. And that kind of addresses some of the things I was saying earlier about how people get labeled early on. And so how can you figure out what your capacity is, your role, and what you're supposed to be doing in this life and do it in a healthy way? So that's the Dignify the Person. Okay. So let's look at this course outline. So these are the dates that are tentatively set for when these things are going to be released in 2024 as individual videos. We may actually push some of this up a little bit, but it's really the first Sunday of every month, essentially, except for September because of Labor Day. So let me break down what this course is going to go through. The next session that we do is going to be about radical reformation. So I'm going to define those two words for you as we understand the New Testament, historical, biblical, and theological foundations for what I call the irreducible minimum of Christianity. So there's hundreds of things churches tell us we have to do to be Christians, but I'm going to show you that most of them are actually not essential at all to the Christian faith. So I used to work in a denomination that had a church manual, which was about 400 pages. I'm going to show you in this course how we can reduce that down to one page. That's right. The next session is going to be Better Church. And we have the three shifts that take place: better church, better proof, better growth. And it starts with better church. We will break down what church actually means in the Bible and what it is meant to be today. So much of evangelical Christianity has wrapped up our identity in our involvement in organized church practices. I'm going to show you a better way of understanding our identity in Christ as we go back to the original intention and meaning of church from Jesus himself. So our shift number one is going to be from activity to identity, and that will make sense to you as we go through that. The next one is better proof. This session will focus on Christian character. I will show you what I'm sorry, I will show you that what many people hold up as great examples of strong, devout Christians are probably not the same examples Jesus would be holding up. He gave us very clear ideas on what the proof is that someone is truly a follower of Jesus, a follower of his. And it doesn't have anything to do with charisma, talent, skills, singing, or preaching ability. Shift number 2 is from talent to fruit, from spiritual gifts to spiritual fruit. That will make more sense when we get there as well. And then finally, better growth. So y'all, listen, this one is the biggie. Okay. So when I wrote my book, one of the stages I had to go through was an editorial review by the publishing company. And this is different from my editor who had the job of finding mistakes and giving advice and making recommendations and all of that to make the book better. Instead, this was a person who the publisher hires to read and review my book based on its actual message or content. There can't be anything in there that the publisher would deem as offensive or inappropriate. So this person kind of reviews all of the content to make sure it will fit with the publisher and what they're doing, and at the same time gives a little bit of feedback and criticism as well. So this person happened to be a Christian and told me that chapter 4 of my book was the one that hit him the hardest, really affected him, made him think about things as a Christian. And that chapter is all about how spiritual growth really happens, and it's the basis for this session. So shift number 3 is from doing to being. And then we end with, this is your journey. That's where we finally bring it all home with personal reflection and application. Okay, so if you're watching this and going through this, what we will have throughout the courses is time to stop and do a few things. One of those things is pray. So I want to give you an opportunity for a brief prayer, so brief, in fact, that it just centers on a word. How would you want to fill in the blank of this sentence? Lord, I could use more today. So take a minute to think of what that will be. If you're following along with the notes, you have the notes to do that. If you're watching this, you can pause it and take time to pray that prayer out loud or silently. But this will make more sense to you as we go through the 4 practices in the next lesson. But I want to introduce this right now. The second thing I want to introduce right now is the idea of go. So the idea of the go activity is to choose an act of kindness to carry out. You will hear more about this in our next session as well, and why we include it. But for today, I just want to keep it very simple. So I'm going to give you a minute again to think of someone, come up with a short message of encouragement or compassion or inspiration that you think that person might need to hear, and draft it right now. So again, you can pause this. You can send it later, but I would go ahead and pause this, come up with it now, send it now, and actually do this. If you have a person or a message come to your mind right away, that's probably the one you should go with. All right. The other component is teach, and we're actually skipped one, which is baptize, and we won't get into that in this session. So this is just a quick preview. I'm going to go ahead and give it away now, a little teaser for our next lesson. The 4 core practices are pray, go, baptize, teach. Here's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering, what would you tell your child about each of these in one word or phrase? So if you had a younger child, for example, and you want to explain to them, hey, here's what it means to pray. Here's what it means to go and serve. Here's what baptism is about. That might be a little tougher. And this is what it means to teach or learn about God. So be thinking about that. Again, if you're going through this in the group, there's going to be time for us to interact on this. What concerns you about what your children may learn about God? Okay. Again, in the group, we'll interact on this question. If not, if you're watching this another way, share your response with me somehow. Share it in the comments on YouTube, on Instagram, share it with us somehow, your thoughts on this. You can even email me, and all that contact information is going to be given to you at the end of the course. But reflect on this question. What is it that concerns you about what your children may learn about God? That's something I'm curious to hear from people. All right. So we're not going to get too specific or in depth on anything in this lesson. We're just giving you a quick overview, 30,000-foot view kind of some of these things. So when we get to that teach component each course, this is where we'll break down the content more and really get into it. So this is just a quick overview of the 3 shifts. I have to really focus on that word, in thinking that we will address in this course, the mindset shifts. And I'm curious, which shift do you think will be hardest for you? Which one will be hardest to pass on to your child? So be thinking about that as you reflect on these. So the first one is seeing church as activity, is seeing it as something separate from who you are. So it's usually viewed as an event, a service, a building, something you go to. It has a start time and an end time. But seeing church as identity is a game changer for your spiritual identity. When you understand there is a universal body of Christ that you are a part of 24/7, no matter where you are. And so we will unpack this idea. The second one is seeing character differently. Seeing character in terms of talent or certain spiritual gifts, which is really often more about personality traits. That's how it's usually viewed. Why do the worship leaders, the preachers, the most charismatic people get labeled as the most devout Christians, or get raised up as examples of what other Christians should be like? God has already defined the proof or evidence to let the world know who really is a follower of Jesus. And it doesn't have anything to do with public speaking skills or singing talent or even your spiritual gifts. And the third one, like I said, is the big one. It's the hardest one for me. I keep slipping back into my old mindset on this one. But seeing maturity in your faith as a checklist of things that good Christians do is a sign of toxic religiosity or bad Christianity. I used to teach it. I used to tell people good indicators of spiritual maturity were tithing, praying, reading the Bible, going to church, all that stuff. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background. I had a whole list of what makes you a responsible Christian. Now I'm going to flip the script on you as we unpack the truth that is not how Jesus tells us spiritual growth works. God has a whole different perspective on discipleship and how spiritual growth really happens. And it is actually plain to see right there in the Bible when we look for it. All right, I have another question for you. What is a question that your child has asked about God that has stumped you? Or I'd love to hear that one. So share that response with me as well in all the different ways. What is a question your child has asked about God that has stumped you? All right. Before we wrap up and before I let you go out of this lesson, I want to share a few resources with you and ways you can support me and Closer Than You Think. So if you're like, hey, Mark, look, I appreciate what you're doing. I'd like to see it be successful, but I'm not really sure how engaged I will stay with all of this. Then I'm going to let you know the one thing that you can do that is more helpful than anything else. The number one top best way you can support me is to sign up and purchase my first course. Sign up for the starter online course. 3 ways to simplify the path. 3 ways to simplify the path. Okay, not the path. And I will include that link for you in the description so you can access that. Use the coupon code God is Closer, all bunched together, one word, God is Closer, lowercase, at checkout to get the course for under $10, under $10. Okay. I put way more than $10 worth of work into this course. All right. Even if you would be willing just to make a donation, you're like, no, I'd rather just make a donation to you. I don't want to deal with any of your stuff. Even if that's the case, I would rather you do so by purchasing the course. Consider that your donation. It helps me on 2 fronts, to be honest with you. Because number one, quite frankly, I could use the money to keep this thing going. I need to invest back into the resources and be able to pay for these platforms and stuff. And I need to increase the course registration. So that's just me being real with you. Okay. My first course, 3 Ways to Simplify the Path. There's information there for you on the screen. It's designed for individuals to go through at their own pace, at their own time, when it's convenient. This is the foundational course that deals with the single most important question to launch anyone's adventure in the Christian faith. Without this question, it is easy to get trapped in bad Christianity, which could be why Jesus himself used this question as the starting point before forming the church. There's your teaser. So this first course is all about simplifying the whole idea of what it means to follow Jesus. Participants learn to ask a better question, which changes all kinds of things about how a person approaches issues of faith, as well as their relationships in all avenues of life. They also learn a healthy and fresh way of viewing Christian responsibility and how it is meant to be shaped by God's love more than God's law. And they will learn what it means to embrace a relationship with Jesus rather than a religion of Jesus and why it matters. People who take the course walk away with a healthy view of themselves, a solid theology to understand the ways of God, and practical tools for immediate real life application. It's all there, I promise. I highly recommend starting here and taking this course before you do anything else. Okay, some other resources for you to know. Subscribe to our weekly updates. I'll put the link in there for that. This is probably the simplest, best thing you can do if you're on the fence about all of this stuff with Closer Than You Think. Visit us at ctyt.net, at our website, Closer Than You Think, ctyt.net. Buy the book for 10% off directly from the publisher. I'll link that for you. The book, again, is called You Don't Have to Do That, and you can get it anywhere books are sold, but you can go to the Outskirts Press link and get it for 10% off from the publisher. By the way, I will just say this personally. If you buy the Kindle version of it instead, that actually helps me out better, but I don't care. I just want to get the message out there. So however you get it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are many videos there. Most of them are shorts, so check those out. They're less than a minute long. Watch and share them. That helps me out as well. It's at on YouTube at Closer Than You Think _114. Also follow me on Instagram. It is also Closer Than You Think _114. And all of these links will be included in the description or part of the course materials as well. Our mission is to help as many people as possible navigate a simpler spiritual journey to be free of toxic religious practices associated with bad Christianity. We want to help people simplify the path, magnify the power, and dignify the person on their way to life transformation. Again, one final plug, sign up for the starter course, 3 ways to simplify the path. Don't forget the coupon code God is Closer at checkout to get the course for under $10. Okay, how we will close out every course is with this 3-2-1. 3 thoughts, ideas that you're still pondering, 2 questions, issues that you want to explore more, and 1 action, 1 way that you can bless someone else or affirm someone else or thank someone else. Now, if you're going through this in the group, we'll actually have a time for you to do this, to affirm somebody else in the group as we're leaving. But 3-2-1, 3 thoughts, 2 questions, 1 action. This is in your notes. There's a section in your notes for this if you took those. Hey, thank you so much. If you have any questions or want to reach out, you can find me at Closer Than You Think _114 on YouTube and on Instagram as well. You can also email me at info@ctyt.net. And of course, you can visit our website. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Okay. So if you're still here, this is like the afterword, kind of. And it's just something that I was challenged once to think about and share. So I'm going to throw this in only on this course, at the end of this course, just to say it, because it helps keep me honest with what I'm doing. I, Mark Scott, make this vow to my family, supportive loved ones, and CTYT subscribers and partners. My vow is simple. I will show up. Day after day, over and over, I will act according to the values I promote through Closer Than You Think, such as active grace, simple faith, the fruit of the Spirit, and curiosity as a lifelong learner. I know I will make mistakes, sometimes costly ones, and face many challenges. I know I will never be perfect, and I will continue to be confronted by my own fears and anxiety. So I commit to my daily routines to be present in the moment, to find joy in small victories and incremental progress toward the vision of changing lives with a message of God's love. I may never reach my goals, but just being able to attempt to do so is a gift. There's no doubt that I will still be awkward more often than not and uncomfortable in my own skin while learning that I am enough as I am, whether any of this works out or not. So I commit to modeling integrity to my convictions of who Jesus is to me, so that my daughters will have one more example of living with courage and humility. I vow to keep showing up imperfectly, repeatedly, and intentionally to help as many people as possible, including those closest to me, realize God is closer than you think.